The moon hung low over Lysaria, its silver light bathing the dense forests and stone spires of the werewolf kingdom in an ethereal glow. In the shadow of the towering Iron Fang citadel, Alara crouched by a stream, her calloused hands scrubbing blood from a hunter's cloak. As an Omega, the lowest rank in the Silver Claw pack, her days were filled with menial tasks, washing, cooking, and enduring the sharp tongues of higher-ranking wolves. Her auburn hair, tangled from a day's labor, fell into her eyes as she worked, her green gaze flickering with quiet defiance. "Alara, move faster," snapped Mira, a beta she-wolf with a permanent sneer. She stood on the bank, arms crossed, her sleek blonde braid gleaming. "The feast starts in an hour and you're dawdling like a pup." Alara bit back a retort, dipping the cloak deeper into the icy water. "It's nearly done, Mira. I'll be there." Her voice was soft but steady, a practiced tone to avoid trouble. Omegas didn't argue, not if they wanted to avoid a lashing. Mira scoffed. "You'd better. The king's making his final decree tonight. Even Omegas have to look presentable." She turned on her heel, her boots crunching on the gravel path back to the citadel. Alara's hands stilled. King Alaric, the Alpha King, was dying. Whispers of his failing health had spread through the pack like wildfire, and tonight's grand gathering was no ordinary feast. The entire kingdom, every pack from the frost-bitten northern peaks to the sun-scorched southern plains, would gather to hear his last words. Alara's heart thudded. What could a dying king possibly say that required an Omega's presence? She wrung out the cloak, her thoughts drifting to the stories her mother used to tell. Tales of Lunas, powerful she-wolves chosen to crown the next Alpha King. Only a Luna could perform the sacred ritual, binding the king's soul to the moon's power. But Lunas were always chosen from the elite, not from Omegas like her. Alara shook her head, dismissing the thought. She was no one. As she trudged toward the citadel, her worn boots sinking into the muddy path, a strange warmth pulsed in her chest. It had been happening for weeks, a faint tingling sensation, like a spark buried deep within her. She pressed a hand to her heart, frowning. "Not now," she muttered, as if scolding the feeling. The last thing she needed was to draw attention. Inside the citadel, the grand hall buzzed with activity. Wolves from every pack mingled, their fur-lined cloaks and gleaming armor a stark contrast to Alara's patched tunic. She slipped through the crowd, delivering the cleaned cloaks to the hunter's quarters, her head bowed to avoid notice. But as she passed a group of betas, a low voice cut through the din. "Alara, isn't it?" The speaker was Turan, a grizzled hunter with kind eyes. He leaned against a pillar, sharpening a dagger. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the moon tonight." She managed a small smile. "Just trying to stay out of trouble, Torin." He chuckled, his gaze softening. "You're stronger than you know, girl. Don't let them grind you down." He nodded toward the high table where the elite wolves sat. "Tonight's going to change things, mark my words." Alara's stomach twisted. Change was rarely kind to Omegas. She mumbled a thank you and hurried to the servants' corner, where she joined the other Omegas preparing trays of roasted venison and honeyed mead. The hall's massive chandeliers cast flickering shadows, and the air hummed with anticipation. At the center of it all stood a raised dais, where King Alaric's throne sat empty, draped in black fur, a reminder of his absence. As the moon reached its zenith, a horn blared, silencing the crowd. Elder Mara, a stooped she-wolf with silver hair and piercing eyes, stepped onto the dais. "Wolves of Lysaria!" she called, her voice carrying a weight that belied her frail frame. "Our king is too weak to join us, but his decree will be spoken. Prepare yourselves." Alara's heart pounded as she set down a tray, her eyes fixed on the dais. The crowd parted, and a scribe emerged, clutching a sealed parchment. The room held its breath as he broke the seal and read aloud. "By the will of King Alaric, the Luna who shall crown the next Alpha King is chosen. Her name is Alara of the Silver Claw Pack." The hall erupted in gasps and murmurs. Elara froze, the tray slipping from her hands. It crashed to the floor, shattering the silence. Every eye turned to her, and the weight of their stares felt like a physical blow. An Omega? A Luna? It was unthinkable. Mera's voice cut through the chaos. Her, that filth? This is an insult. Others joined her, their shouts blending into a cacophony of disbelief. Elara's knees buckled, but she caught herself against a table. The warmth in her chest flared, sharp and insistent, as if answering the call. She didn't understand. Not the king's choice, not the heat in her veins, not the way her life had just shattered. All she knew was that nothing would ever be the same. The grand hall of Iron Fang Citadel buzzed like a disturbed hive, the uproar over Elara's naming as Luna growing louder by the second. She stood rooted to the spot, her pulse racing as wolves pointed and whispered. The shattered tray at her feet seemed to mock her, a reminder of her place, or lack thereof. Omegas didn't belong in the spotlight, yet here she was, the center of a kingdom's outrage. Elder Mara raised a hand, her voice cutting through the din like a blade. Silence, the king's decree is final. Disrespect it, and you disrespect the moon herself. The crowd quieted, but the tension remained, thick as fog. Elara's gaze darted to the high table, where the elite wolves sat. Among them was Lyria, Cassian's betrothed, her golden hair gleaming under the chandeliers. Her ice-blue eyes locked onto Elara, sharp with venom. This is a mistake, Lyria said, her voice carrying across the hall. An Omega cannot wield the Luna's power. The king must be delirious. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, but Elder Mara's glare silenced them. The king's mind is sound, Lyria. Question him again, and you'll face the council's judgment. Elara's throat tightened. She wanted to shrink, to disappear into the shadows, but the warmth in her chest pulsed again, urging her to stand tall. She didn't understand it, but it felt like a tether, anchoring her to this moment. Torin appeared at her side, his presence a quiet comfort. Chin up, Elara, he whispered. They're scared of what they don't understand. Show them you're more than they think. Before she could respond, a deep voice boomed from the dais. Enough. Cassian, the heir apparent, strode forward, his broad shoulders and dark hair commanding attention. His amber eyes burned with intensity, and his presence seemed to draw the air from the room. As the son of the king's late brother, he was the favored successor, a warrior whose strength was matched only by his ambition. The king's word is law, he said, his gaze sweeping the hall before landing on Elara. But I would hear it from the Omega herself. Step forward. Elara's heart lurched. Every instinct screamed to flee, but Torin's gentle nudge propelled her forward. Her legs trembled as she approached the dais, the crowd parting like a sea. She stopped before Cassian, her head barely reaching his chest. Up close, he was even more imposing, his scent, a mix of cedar and steel, overwhelming. Your name is Elara? He asked, his tone measured but edged with curiosity. Yes, my lord, she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Cassian tilted his head, studying her. An Omega chosen as Luna. Tell me, do you even know what that means? She swallowed, her mind racing. I know the Luna crowns the Alpha King. She binds him to the moon's power, but I don't know why the king chose me. His lips twitched, not quite a smile. Nor do I. But if you're to play this role, you'll need to prove yourself worthy. The kingdom won't bow to weakness. Lyria stood, her voice dripping with disdain. Worthy? She's a servant, Cassian. She scrubs floors, not thrones. This is a farce. Cassian's eyes flickered to Lyria, a warning in his gaze. The king's choice is not ours to question, Lyria. Not yet. He turned back to Elara. You'll come to the palace tomorrow. We'll see what you're made of. Elara nodded, her mouth dry. The weight of his words and his stare pressed against her, both a challenge and a promise. As he stepped back, the crowd erupted again, but Elder Mara's sharp command silenced them. "The feast continues," she declared. "Alara, you are dismissed to prepare for your new role." Turan guided Alara out of the hall, her mind spinning. Outside, the night air was cool against her flushed skin. "What just happened?" she whispered, more to herself than to Turan. He squeezed her shoulder. "The king saw something in you, girl. Something the rest of them don't. Hold on to that." As they walked back to the Omega quarters, the warmth in Alara's chest flared again, stronger this time. It wasn't just nerves, it was something alive, something ancient. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew one thing for certain. Her life as an Omega was over. The next morning, Alara stood before the Iron Fang Citadel's inner gates, her patched tunic replaced by a simple but clean gray dress, provided by Elder Mara. The fabric felt foreign against her skin, too soft for someone used to rough homespun. The warmth in her chest had settled into a low hum, but it stirred whenever she thought of the day ahead. She was to meet Cassian in the palace's council chamber, a place no Omega had ever stepped foot. A guard escorted her through marble corridors lined with tapestries depicting werewolf battles and lunar rituals. The air smelled of polished stone and incense, a far cry from the earthy scent of the Omega quarters. At the chamber's entrance, the guard stopped. "He's waiting," he said gruffly, pushing open the heavy oak doors. Inside, Cassian stood by a massive window, sunlight glinting off his dark hair. He wore a fitted leather tunic, his broad frame radiating authority. Two other wolves flanked him, a stern-faced advisor named Gavrik and Lyria, whose presence made Alara's stomach twist. Lyria's lips curled into a sneer as Alara entered. "Prompt, at least," Cassian said, turning to face her. "That's a start." Alara bowed her head, unsure of protocol. "My lord, Enough with the titles," he interrupted, waving a hand. "If you're to be Luna, you'll speak to me as an equal. Sit." She hesitated, then took a seat at the long table, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Lyria remained standing, her arms crossed. "This is absurd, Cassian," she said. "You can't seriously entertain this Omega as Luna." Cassian's jaw tightened. "The king's decree is clear, Lyria. Until we understand his reasons, we proceed." Lyria laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "His reasons? He's dying. His mind is gone. You're the rightful heir, and you don't need some lowborn to crown you." Alara's cheeks burned, but she kept her eyes on the table, the warmth in her chest flaring in response to Lyria's words. Cassian's voice was low, dangerous. "Careful, Lyria. You're not queen yet." The room fell silent, the tension thick. Gavrik cleared his throat. "My lord, Cassian, the council is uneasy." The other alphas are already circling, sensing weakness. Dorian of the Iron Fang Pack and Riven of the Outlands have both declared their intent to claim the crown. Cassian's eyes narrowed. "Let them try. The crown is mine by blood." "But not by ritual," Gavrik said cautiously. "Only the Luna can perform the crowning, and if Alara is the chosen one." All eyes turned to her. Alara's heart pounded. "I don't know why he chose me," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm no one. I've never even seen the king up close." Cassian leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "And yet he named you. Why? What are you hiding, Alara?" "Nothing," she said quickly, too quickly. The warmth in her chest pulsed, and she pressed a hand to it, hoping no one noticed. "I'm just an Omega." He studied her for a long moment, then leaned back. "An Omega with the king's favor. That makes you dangerous." He stood, circling the table until he was beside her. "I need a Luna who can stand by my side, not just crown me. The kingdom is fracturing and I won't let it fall. Marry me, Alara. Be my mate, and together we'll secure the throne." Alara's breath caught. Marriage? To Cassian? The idea was absurd. yet his amber eyes held hers, intense and unyielding. She saw ambition there, but also something else. Desire, perhaps, or calculation. Lyria's voice was a hiss. "You can't be serious. I'm your betrothed." Cassian didn't look at her. "A betrothal can be broken, Lyria. The crown comes first." Ilara's mind raced. I need time," she stammered. "I don't even know what being a Luna means." Cassian's lips curved into a half-smile. "You'll learn. But know this. The other alphas won't be as patient as I am. Choose wisely, Ilara." As he dismissed her, Lyria's glare followed her out of the chamber. Ilara's legs felt like lead as she left, the warmth in her chest now a burning ember. Cassian's offer was a lifeline, or a trap. And with other alphas circling, she was already caught in a deadly game. The palace courtyard was alive with activity, wolves training with swords and claws under the midday sun. Ilara had been summoned to observe a ceremonial display, a tradition meant to honor the king's decree. She stood on a balcony overlooking the arena, her hands gripping the stone railing. The warmth in her chest hadn't faded since her meeting with Cassian, and it flared now, as if sensing the power below. Cassian was there, sparring with a young beta, his movements precise and lethal. But Ilara's attention was drawn to two other figures entering the arena. Dorian of the Iron Fang Pack, and Riven of the Outlands. Dorian was tall and broad, his dark hair tied back, his gray eyes scanning the crowd with quiet intensity. Riven, leaner and more agile, moved with a predator's grace, his blonde hair catching the light as he flashed a roguish grin. Elder Mara appeared beside Ilara, her silver hair glinting. "Those are the wolves who would be king," she said. "Dorian is a warrior, honorable but haunted. Riven is a rogue, charming but dangerous. They've both declared for the crown, and for you." Ilara's stomach twisted. "Me? But why? I'm nobody." Mara's eyes narrowed. "You're the Luna, child. That makes you the key to the throne. Watch them closely. Their hearts are not what they seem." Below, the display began. Cassian faced Dorian first, their swords clashing with a force that echoed through the courtyard. The crowd cheered, but Ilara noticed Dorian's restraint. He fought to prove a point, not to wound. When Riven took the field, his style was different, all fluid dodges and taunting jabs. He laughed as he fought, goading Cassian, who growled in response. After the display, the alphas approached the balcony. Cassian reached her first, his expression unreadable. "Impressive, weren't they?" he said, his tone laced with sarcasm. "But they're not your allies, Ilara. Remember that." Before she could respond, Dorian stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Ilara," he said, his voice deep and steady. "I'm Dorian. I don't expect you to trust me, but know this. I fight for a kingdom where no one is cast aside, Omega or not." His sincerity caught her off guard, and she managed a nod. "Thank you, Dorian. I'll keep that in mind." Riven sauntered up, his grin wicked. "Don't let the soldier fool you, love," he said, his voice a low purr. "Dorian's got his own demons, and Cassian's got his own plans. Me, I'm an open book." He winked, leaning closer. "Stick with me, and I'll show you what freedom tastes like." Cassian growled, stepping between them. "Back off, Riven. She's not your plaything." Riven laughed, unfazed. "Oh, but she's not yours either, Prince. Not yet." Ilara's cheeks flushed, the warmth in her chest surging. "I'm not anyone's," she said, her voice sharper than intended. The alphas froze, surprised by her defiance. Dorian's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Well said, Luna." Cassian's eyes darkened, but he said nothing. Riven just chuckled, stepping back. As they dispersed, Elder Mara leaned close. "Be careful, Ilara. Each of them wants the crown, but they also want you. And not all desires are pure." As Ilara left the balcony, the warmth in her chest pulsed wildly, as if warning her of the danger ahead. 3 alphas, 3 paths, and a kingdom hanging in the balance. She was no longer just an omega. She was a prize, and the hunt had just begun. That night, Alara couldn't sleep. The omega quarters, with their cramped bunks and damp stone walls, felt suffocating. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the warmth in her chest now a constant thrum. It had grown stronger since the king's decree, and she couldn't ignore it anymore. It wasn't just nerves, it was something more, something alive. Slipping out of bed, she wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and crept outside, the moon casting long shadows across the citadel grounds. She needed air, needed to think. Cassian's proposal, Dorian's sincerity, Riven's charm, they swirled in her mind, each pulling her in a different direction. But beneath it all was the question of why the king had chosen her. An omega didn't just become Luna. There had to be a reason. As she wandered toward the ancient lunar grove, a sacred place where Lunas once trained, the warmth in her chest flared, sharp and insistent. She gasped, clutching her heart as a faint glow shimmered beneath her skin, silver like the moon. Panic surged through her. "What is this?" she whispered, stumbling against a tree. "It's your gift," a voice said from the shadows. Alara spun, her heart racing. Elder Mara emerged, her silver hair glowing faintly in the moonlight. "You feel it, don't you?" Mara said, her eyes gleaming. "The lunar magic, it's waking in you." "Magic?" Ilara's voice trembled. "I'm an omega. I don't have magic." Mara's lips curved into a rare smile. "You're more than you know, child. The Luna's power is tied to the moon, and it's chosen you. But it's dangerous. If the court learns of it before you can control it, they'll tear you apart." Ilara's mind reeled. "Why me? Why would the king choose me for this?" Mara stepped closer, her voice low. "I don't know his reasons, but I knew your mother. She had a spark too, though she hid it well. Perhaps the king saw it in you. Or perhaps he saw something else." "My mother." Ilara's chest tightened. Her mother had died when she was young, leaving only vague memories and stories. She was an omega, like me. She wasn't special. Wasn't she? Mara's eyes narrowed. "Think, Ilara. The warmth, the glow. Have you ever felt it before?" Ilara hesitated, then nodded. "Sometimes, when I was younger. But it was faint, like a dream. I thought it was nothing." "It's not nothing," Mara said sharply. "It's power, raw and unrefined. You must learn to wield it, or it will consume you, and the kingdom with it." Ilara's knees felt weak. "How? I don't even know where to start." Mara placed a hand on her shoulder, her grip firm. "You start by keeping it secret. Tell no one, not Cassian, not Dorian, not Riven. They'll use it, or fear it. Tomorrow you'll begin training with me in the Lunar Grove. We'll unlock your gift, piece by piece." Ilara nodded, her mind racing. "And the alphas? They're all watching me?" Mara's expression darkened. "They're wolves, Ilara. They hunt what they want. Cassian sees you as a means to the throne. Dorian sees you as a cause. Riven sees you as a prize. Trust none of them until you trust yourself." As Mara disappeared into the shadows, Ilara sank to the ground, the glow in her chest fading to a dull ache. Magic, power, danger. The words echoed in her mind, each one heavier than the last. She was no longer just an omega, nor just a Luna. She was something else entirely, and the kingdom would never let her forget it. The Iron Fang Citadel's grand council chamber glittered under the morning sun, its stained glass windows casting kaleidoscopic patterns across the marble floor. Ilara stood at the chamber's edge, her borrowed silk gown, a deep sapphire that clung uncomfortably to her frame, feeling like a costume. She was no longer scrubbing cloaks by the stream. She was the Luna, or so the king's decree claimed. Yet the weight of the court's stairs made her feel like an imposter. Elder Mara had escorted her here, her silver hair tucked beneath the ceremonial hood. Keep your wits sharp, Mara had whispered before they entered. The court is a den of vipers, and you're their newest prey. Now, Alara faced the High Council, a semicircle of stern-faced wolves seated at a polished obsidian table. Cassian sat at its center, his amber eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. To his left was Lyria, her golden hair swept into an elegant updo, her lips curled in a barely concealed sneer. Across the room, Dorian stood against a pillar, his gray eyes watchful, while Riven lounged near the door, his roguish grin a stark contrast to the room's tension. Gavrich, the king's advisor, rose to address the council. Ilara of the Silverclaw Pack, you stand before us as the chosen Luna. The king's decree is sacred, but it is not unchallenged. Speak your purpose. Ilara's throat tightened. She'd rehearsed her words with Mara, but they felt inadequate now. I am here to fulfill the king's will, she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. I don't understand why he chose me, but I'll do my duty. Lyria's laugh was sharp, cutting through the chamber. Duty? You're an Omega girl. Your duty is to serve, not to crown kings. This is a mockery of our traditions. Lyria, Cassian said, his tone low but firm. The king's word is law. You know this. She turned to him, her eyes flashing. And you'd let this lowborn stand beside you? You, the rightful heir? She's unfit, Cassian. The court sees it, even if you're too stubborn to admit it. Murmurs rippled through the council, some nodding in agreement. Ilara's cheeks burned, but the warmth in her chest, the lunar magic Mara had warned her to hide, flared in response. She clenched her fists, willing it to subside. Dorian stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. The king chose Ilara for a reason. We dishonor him by questioning it without proof. Give her a chance to prove herself. Riven chuckled, pushing off the wall. Oh, I like this. A chance for the Omega to shine? I'm all for it. Let's see what she's got. His green eyes twinkled with mischief, but there was an edge to his words, as if he were testing her. Gavrich raised a hand for silence. The council will test her worthiness. Ilara, you'll undergo training in court etiquette, werewolf lore, and the Luna's rituals. Elder Mara will oversee your education. Fail, and the council may petition to overturn the king's decree. Ilara's heart sank. Overturn the decree? She hadn't asked for this burden, but the thought of losing it now, of returning to her old life, felt like defeat. I understand, she said, meeting Gavrich's gaze. I'll do whatever it takes. Lyria's smile was venomous. We'll see how long you last, Omega. As the council adjourned, Cassian approached Ilara, his presence overwhelming. You handled that better than I expected, he said, his voice low. But Lyria's right about one thing. The court won't make this easy. Stay close to me, and I'll protect you. Ilara met his gaze, her resolve hardening. I don't need protecting, Cassian. I need answers. Why did the king choose me? His expression flickered, a shadow of something unreadable crossing his face. I don't know, but I intend to find out. Meet me tonight in the Lunar Grove. We'll talk. Before she could respond, Lyria swept past, her shoulder brushing Ilara's with deliberate force. Enjoy your moment, Omega, she hissed. It won't last. As Ilara left the chamber, the warmth in her chest pulsed, a reminder of the secret she carried. The court was a battlefield, and she was unarmed, except for the magic she didn't yet understand. The Lunar Grove was a sacred place, its ancient trees forming a canopy that seemed to cradle the moonlight. Ilara arrived at dusk, her heart pounding as she waited for Cassian. The warmth in her chest had been restless all day, stirring whenever she thought of the council's scrutiny or Lyria's venom. She wore a simple cloak over her gown, hoping to blend into the shadows, but the grove felt alive, its air humming with an energy that matched the pulse in her veins. Cassian emerged from the trees, his leather tunic replaced by a loose linen shirt that softened his imposing frame. In the moonlight, his amber eyes seemed to glow, and Alara felt a pull she couldn't explain, part fear, part something deeper. "You came," he said, his voice softer than in the council chamber. "I wasn't sure you would." "You asked me to," Alara replied, keeping her tone neutral. "You said we'd talk." He nodded, stepping closer. "We will, but first, walk with me." He gestured toward a path winding deeper into the grove, where silver flowers bloomed under the moon's light. Alara hesitated, then followed, her boots silent on the mossy ground. "Why here?" she asked. "Why not the palace?" Cassian glanced at her, a half-smile playing on his lips. "The palace has too many ears. Here, it's just us, and the moon." They walked in silence for a moment, the grove's stillness broken only by the rustle of leaves. Alara's nerves frayed, but she refused to show it. "You said you'd protect me," she began. "But I don't understand you, Cassian. You want the crown, but you also want me as your mate. Why?" He stopped, turning to face her. "Straight to the point, aren't you?" His smile faded, replaced by a seriousness that made her breath catch. "The crown is my birthright, Alara, but the Luna's role is sacred. Without you, I can't claim it, not fully. Marrying you ensures the kingdom's stability." "And Lyria?" Alara pressed, her voice sharper. "She's your betrothed. She's high-born, powerful. Why choose me over her?" Cassian's jaw tightened. "Lyria is ambitious. She wants the throne as much as I do, but her loyalty is to herself. You, though, you're an enigma. An omega with no agenda, no alliances. That makes you valuable." Alara's chest tightened, the warmth flaring. "Valuable? I'm not a prize to be won, Cassian." His eyes softened, and he stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. "No, you're not. You're different. I saw it in the council chamber today. You didn't cower, even when Lyria tried to tear you down. There's strength in you, Alara. I want that strength by my side." Her heart raced, his words stirring something dangerous within her. She took a step back, needing distance. "You don't know me," she said. "You don't know what I'm capable of." "Then show me," he said, his voice low, almost a challenge. "Be my Luna, my mate. Let me help you navigate this court. Together, we could be unstoppable." For a moment, their eyes locked, and the air between them crackled. Alara felt the warmth in her chest surge, and a faint silver glow flickered at her fingertips. She gasped, tucking her hands behind her back, praying he hadn't noticed. Cassian's brow furrowed. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," she said quickly, her voice shaking. "I just need time. This is all too much." He studied her, then nodded. "Take your time, Alara, but don't take too long. The other alphas won't wait." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch lingering. "I'll see you tomorrow." As he disappeared into the grove, Alara sank against a tree, her breath ragged. The glow at her fingertips had faded, but the warmth in her chest burned hotter than ever. Cassian's charm was dangerous, his offer tempting, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he saw her as a means to an end. And her magic, her secret, was a liability she couldn't afford to reveal. The next morning, Alara's training began in earnest. Elder Mara led her to a secluded chamber within the citadel, its walls lined with ancient tomes and lunar relics. The air smelled of parchment and wax, and a single window let in a sliver of sunlight. Mara set a heavy book before Alara, its cover embossed with a crescent moon. "You'll start with the history of the Lunas," Mara said, her voice crisp. "Their power, their duties. But first, tell me, has the magic stirred again?" Alara nodded, her hands clasped tightly. "Last night, in the grove, it glowed. My hands glowed." Mara's eyes narrowed. "You must control it, Alara. The court is watching, And if they suspect you have power beyond their understanding, they'll fear you, or worse. I don't know how to control it, Alara admitted, her voice small. It just happens. Then we'll teach you, Mara said, opening the book. But for now, focus on learning. The court will test you, and knowledge is your shield. They spent hours poring over texts, Mara explaining the Luna's role in binding the Alpha King to the moon's power. Alara's head swam with details, rituals, prophecies, the delicate balance of pack politics. But her thoughts kept drifting to Cassian's words in the grove, to the way his touch had lingered. A sudden commotion outside the chamber broke her focus. Shouts echoed, followed by the clash of steel. Mara's head snapped up. Stay here, she ordered, striding to the door. But Alara followed, her curiosity overriding her fear. In the corridor, two masked wolves in black cloaks fought a pair of guards, their movements swift and lethal. One guard fell, clutching a wound, and Alara's heart raced. The attackers turned, their eyes locking onto her. Get back, Mara shouted, but it was too late. One of the assassins lunged, a dagger gleaming in his hand. Before Alara could react, a figure barreled into the attacker, knocking him to the ground. It was Dorian, his sword drawn, his gray eyes blazing. He dispatched the second assassin with a single, precise strike, then turned to Alara, his chest heaving. Are you hurt? He asked, his voice rough with concern. Alara shook her head, her breath shallow. No, thank you. Dorian sheathed his sword, his gaze scanning the corridor for more threats. They were after you, he said. Someone doesn't want you to be Luna. Mara stepped forward, her expression grim. This is no random attack. The council must be informed. Dorian nodded, then turned back to Alara. Come with me, you're not safe here. He led her to a small garden courtyard, away from the chaos. The air was crisp, scented with blooming jasmine. Alara's hands trembled, the warmth in her chest pulsing wildly. Why would anyone want to kill me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dorian's jaw tightened. You're the Luna. You hold the power to choose the next king. That makes you a threat to anyone who wants the crown, or wants to control it. Alara met his gaze, seeing the weight of his words. You're one of them. You want the crown too. He didn't flinch. I do, but not like this. I want a kingdom where power isn't built on blood and betrayal. My family learned that lesson the hard way. What happened to them? Alara asked, her curiosity piqued. His eyes darkened. Another time, for now, know that I'll protect you, Alara. Not because you're the Luna, but because I believe you're more than they see. His sincerity disarmed her, and for a moment she felt safe. Thank you, Dorian, she said softly. But I don't know who to trust. Trust yourself, he said, his voice firm. And if you need me, I'll be there. As he escorted her back to the citadel, Alara felt the warmth in her chest settle, but the memory of the attack lingered. Someone wanted her dead, and the game for the crown was growing bloodier by the day. The masquerade ball was a spectacle of opulence, the grand hall transformed with silken drapes and golden lanterns. Wolves from every pack donned masks, their identities hidden behind feathers and jewels. Alara wore a silver mask that matched her gown, its delicate embroidery a gift from Elder Mara. She felt out of place among the glittering elite, but the mask gave her a small measure of courage. The warmth in her chest had been restless since the attack, and she kept her hands clasped to hide any telltale glow. Mara had warned her to stay vigilant, but the ball was a chance to observe the court, and the alphas, in a new light. As she moved through the crowd, a hand caught her wrist, pulling her into a slow, swirling dance. She gasped, looking up to find Riven, his green eyes gleaming behind a black mask. His blonde hair was tousled, and his grin was pure mischief. Easy, love, he said, his voice a low purr. You looked like you needed a rescue from all this pomp. Alara's heart raced, but she matched his steps, the music guiding them. "I didn't need rescuing," she said, her tone defiant. "And you shouldn't be sneaking up on me." He laughed, spinning her effortlessly. "Sneaking's what I do best. Besides, you're the most interesting thing in this room. Why wouldn't I want to dance?" She narrowed her eyes, though the mask hid her expression. "What do you want, Riven? The crown like everyone else?" His grin widened, but there was a sharpness to it. "The crown's nice, but I'm more interested in freedom. The court's a cage, Alara. Don't you ever want to break free?" His words struck a chord, echoing her own buried desires. "I'm an Omega," she said softly. "Freedom's not something I get to dream about." "Why not?" he countered, pulling her closer. "You're the Luna now. You could change everything. Run with me, and I'll show you a world beyond these walls." For a moment, she was tempted, his charisma wrapping around her like a spell. But the warmth in her chest flared, a warning. "You don't know me, Riven," she said, pulling back. "And I don't trust you." He chuckled, unfazed. "Smart girl, but trust this. You've got power, Alara. I saw it in the grove last night, that little glow you tried to hide." Her blood ran cold. "You were spying on me?" "Not spying," he said, his tone teasing. "Observing. You're not just an Omega, are you? That magic of yours, it's dangerous. I could help you control it." Alara's heart pounded. "I don't need your help," she said, stepping out of his arms as the music ended. "And if you saw anything, you'll keep it to yourself." Riven's eyes twinkled. "My lips are sealed, love. But secrets have a way of getting out. Be careful who you dance with next." As he melted into the crowd, Alara's hands trembled, the warmth in her chest pulsing wildly. Riven knew about her magic. How much, she wasn't sure. But his offer, like Cassian's, felt like a trap. She needed to learn to control her power, and fast, before it betrayed her to the entire court. The next day, Ilara's training resumed in the Lunar Grove, the sacred space now a refuge from the court's chaos. Elder Mara stood before a stone altar, its surface etched with lunar runes. Ilara's hands were still shaking from her encounter with Riven, his words echoing in her mind. He knew about her magic, and that knowledge made him dangerous. "Focus," Mara snapped, placing a silver amulet on the altar. "The Luna's magic is tied to the moon's cycles. You must learn to channel it, not let it control you." Alara nodded, her voice quiet. "It's getting stronger. I can't always stop it." Mara's eyes softened, but only slightly. "That's why we're here. The amulet will help you focus your power. Touch it, and clear your mind." Alara reached for the amulet, her fingers brushing the cool metal. The warmth in her chest surged, and a faint silver glow enveloped her hand. She gasped, pulling back, but Mara grabbed her wrist. "Don't fight it," she said. "Let it flow." The glow intensified, and for a moment, Alara felt weightless, as if the moon itself were pulling her. Then a vision flashed through her mind. A woman in white, her face obscured, standing over a bloodied throne. The woman's voice whispered, "The Luna's choice will break or bind." Alara stumbled back, the glow fading. "What was that?" she gasped. Mara's expression was grim. "A glimpse of the prophecy. The Luna's power is tied to it. You must learn to control these visions, or they'll overwhelm you." Before Alara could ask more, a rustling in the trees made them both turn. Ilara's heart leapt, expecting another attack, but it was only a young Omega servant, Lila, her eyes wide with fear. "Ilara," she whispered, glancing at Mara. I overheard something. You need to know." Mara frowned. "Speak, child." Lila hesitated, then stepped closer. "I was cleaning the council chamber. Lady Lyria was there, talking to someone, a man, I didn't see his face. They were planning to discredit Alara, to prove she's unfit to be Luna. They mentioned dark magic." Alara's blood ran cold. "Dark magic? What did they say?" Lila's voice trembled. They said they'd make it look like you're cursed, that your power is a danger to the kingdom. Lyria wants you gone, Alara. She'll do anything to keep Cassian and the crown. Mara's eyes narrowed. Did you hear the man's name? Lila shook her head. No, but he sounded powerful, like an alpha. Alara's mind raced. Cassian? Dorian? Riven? Or someone else entirely? The warmth in her chest pulsed, as if warning her of the betrayal closing in. What do I do? She asked, looking to Mara. You keep training, Mara said firmly. Your magic is your strength, but it's also your vulnerability. If Lyria is using dark magic, we need to be ready. And you need to watch the alphas closely. One of them may be her ally. As Lila slipped away, promising to keep her ears open, Alara felt the weight of the prophecy settle over her. Lyria's plot was only the beginning, and the court's intrigues were tightening like a noose. Her magic, her secret, was a double-edged sword, and she was running out of time to learn how to wield it. The lunar grove was cloaked in dawn's pale light, its ancient trees whispering secrets in the breeze. Alara stood before the stone altar, her breath visible in the chilly air. The silver amulet from her last training session hung around her neck, its weight both a comfort and a reminder of the power she barely understood. Elder Mara paced before her, her silver hair glinting like the moon itself, her expressions stern but not unkind. Focus, Alara, Mara said, her voice cutting through the grove's quiet. The lunar magic is not a tool, it's a force. If you don't master it, it will master you. Alara's hands trembled as she touched the amulet, the warmth in her chest stirring. Since Lila's warning about Lyria's plot, she'd barely slept, her mind tangled with fear and suspicion. I'm trying, she said, her voice strained. But it's overwhelming. Every time I feel it, it's like I'm losing myself. Mara's eyes softened, but her tone remained firm. That's because you're fighting it. The Luna's power is part of you, tied to your blood. Your mother felt it too, though she never learned to wield it. Alara's heart skipped. You keep mentioning my mother. What do you know about her? Was she like me? Mara hesitated, then sighed. Lycia was an Omega like you, but she had a spark. I sensed it when she served in the Citadel. She hid it, fearing it would draw attention. I suspect the king knew of her gift and saw it in you. Alara's throat tightened. Why didn't she tell me? She wanted to protect you, Mara said. The court is no place for an Omega with power. But the king's choice has changed that. Now let's begin. She gestured to the altar, where a bowl of moonwater shimmered, reflecting the fading stars. Place your hands over the water and call the magic. Feel it, don't force it. Alara obeyed, her palms hovering over the bowl. The warmth in her chest surged, and a faint silver glow rippled across the water's surface. She gasped, her vision blurring as a whisper echoed in her mind. The Luna's choice will break or bind. The same words from her vision in the grove. It's happening again, she said, her voice shaking. The voice, the words, what do they mean? Mara's expression darkened. They're part of the prophecy. We'll get to that, but first you must control the flow. Breathe, Alara. Anchor yourself. Alara closed her eyes, focusing on her breath. The glow faded and the warmth settled, though it never fully subsided. She opened her eyes, meeting Mara's gaze. I did it, she said, a small smile breaking through her fear. Good, Mara said, nodding. But this is only the beginning. The court will test you, and Lyria's plotting will only grow bolder. You must be ready. A rustling in the trees made Alara tense, but it was only Torin, the grizzled hunter who'd shown her kindness at the feast. He carried a bundle of scrolls, his expression grim. Elder Mara, Alara, he said, bowing slightly. The council's demanding Alara's presence this afternoon. They want to test her knowledge of werewolf lore. Mara's lips pressed into a thin line. Already? They're moving faster than I expected. Very well. Alara, we'll continue tonight. Study these scrolls. She took the bundle from Torin and handed it to Alara. They cover the Luna's rituals and the kingdom's history. Memorize them. Alara clutched the scrolls, her stomach twisting. What if I fail their test? You won't, Torin said, his voice firm. You've got more grit than half the council, girl. Show them what you're made of. Mara nodded. Torin's right, but be wary, Alara. The council isn't just testing your knowledge, they're looking for weaknesses. Lyria will be there, and she'll pounce on any mistake. As Torin left, Alara's gaze lingered on the scrolls. The warmth in her chest pulsed, as if urging her forward. She was no longer just an Omega, but the court's scrutiny, and Lyria's schemes, made every step feel like a tightrope walk over a chasm. The council chamber was a stark contrast to the lunar grove, its cold marble and towering pillars, a reminder of the court's power. Alara stood at the center, the scrolls she'd studied all morning clutched in her mind like lifelines. The council sat in a semicircle, their faces a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Cassian presided, his amber eyes unreadable, while Lyria sat to his right, her golden hair gleaming under the chandeliers. Dorian and Riven were absent, their absence a small relief amidst the tension. Gavrich the advisor rose, his voice formal. Alara, as the chosen Luna, you must prove your understanding of our traditions. The Luna's role is sacred, and we cannot allow an unfit candidate to perform the crowning ritual. Begin by explaining the binding of the moon. Alara took a deep breath, recalling the scrolls. The binding of the moon is the ritual where the Luna channels the moon's power to anoint the Alpha King, she said, her voice steady. It requires a sacred vow, spoken under a full moon, and the Luna's touch to seal the bond. The ritual ensures the king's strength is tied to the moon's cycles. Gavrit nodded, but Lyria leaned forward, her smile sharp. A textbook answer, Omega. But tell me, what happens if the Luna is unworthy? What does the lore say about a failed binding? Alara's heart raced, but she held Lyria's gaze. If the Luna is unworthy, the ritual fails, and the king's power is weakened. The kingdom may fall into chaos, as the moon's favor is lost. Lyria's eyes gleamed. And how do we know you're worthy? An Omega with no lineage, no training. How can you claim to wield such power? The council murmured, and Alara felt the warmth in her chest flare, threatening to betray her secret. She clenched her fists, willing it to subside. I don't claim anything, she said, her voice firm. The king chose me. I'm here to honor his will. Cassian leaned forward, his voice cutting through the murmurs. Enough, Lyria. Ilara's answered correctly, but knowledge isn't enough. He stood, his presence commanding the room. The Luna must also prove her loyalty. Ilara, step forward. Ilara's stomach twisted as she approached him, the council's eyes boring into her. Cassian's expression was unreadable, but there was a flicker of something, concern perhaps, in his gaze. The kingdom is divided, he said. Rival alphas challenge my claim, and the court questions your role. Swear your loyalty to me, here and now, and I'll ensure your place as Luna. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging heavy. Ilara's mind raced. Swearing loyalty to Cassian would tie her to him, strengthening his claim but alienating Dorian and Riven. Yet refusing could weaken her position further. She began, her voice faltering. The warmth in her chest pulsed, urging her to choose her words carefully. I swear to serve the kingdom and honor the king's decree. My loyalty is to the truth, Cassian, not to any one alpha. A gasp rippled through the council. Lyria's smile vanished, replaced by a scowl. You dare defy him? She hissed. You're nothing without his protection. Cassian raised a hand, silencing her. His eyes locked onto Ilara's, a mix of surprise and intrigue in his gaze. Bold words, he said softly. But dangerous ones. You've passed the test of knowledge, Alara, but loyalty is harder to prove. We'll see where your truth leads you. As the council adjourned, Lyria stormed out, her parting glare promising retribution. Gavrik approached Alara, his expression cautious. You tread a fine line, girl, he said. Cassian's offer was generous. Refusing it may cost you. Alara nodded, her heart heavy. I know, but I can't choose blindly. Not yet. As she left the chamber, she felt Cassian's gaze linger, a silent promise of more challenges to come. The warmth in her chest pulsed, a reminder of the power and danger she carried within. The Citadel's training grounds were alive with the clash of steel and the growls of sparring wolves. Alara watched from a shaded pavilion, her mind still reeling from the council's test. Elder Mara had insisted she observe the warriors' drills to understand the kingdom's strength, but Alara's thoughts were elsewhere, on Cassian's demand for loyalty, Lyria's schemes, and the lunar magic that threatened to expose her. Dorian approached, his armor glinting in the sunlight. His dark hair was damp with sweat, and his gray eyes held a quiet intensity. You look troubled, he said, wiping his brow. The council giving you grief? Alara managed a small smile. Something like that. They tested me today. I think I passed, but it's complicated. He nodded, gesturing to a bench. Sit with me. You look like you need a break. They sat, the sounds of the training grounds fading into the background. Alara studied Dorian, noting the lines of exhaustion on his face. You saved me from those assassins, she said. I never properly thanked you. No need, he said, his voice low. I couldn't let them hurt you, not when you're... He trailed off, looking away. Not when I'm what? She pressed, curious. He met her gaze, his expression raw. Not when you're the hope this kingdom needs. The court's corrupt, Alara. I've seen what it does to those who don't fit its mold. She tilted her head, sensing the weight behind his words. What happened to you, Dorian? You said your family learned a hard lesson. What was it? He hesitated, his jaw tightening. After a long moment, he spoke. My father was an alpha like me, but he challenged the council's traditions. He wanted to end the Omega caste, give everyone a voice. The court saw him as a threat. They framed him for treason, executed him, and banished my mother. I was just a pup, but I remember the blood, the lies. Ilara's heart ached. I'm so sorry, she said softly. That's why you want the crown? To change things. He nodded. The kingdom's rotting from within. Cassian's too tied to the old ways, and Riven's too reckless. I want to build something better, but I need the Luna's power to do it. That's why I need you, Alara, not just as a tool, but as a partner. His words struck her, their sincerity a stark contrast to Cassian's calculated charm and Riven's roguish games. I want to believe you, she said, her voice trembling. But everyone wants something from me. How do I know you're different? Dorian leaned closer, his gaze steady. You don't, not yet. But I'll prove it, Alara. I'll stand by you, no matter what the court throws at you. The warmth in her chest stirred, but this time it felt calm, almost comforting. Thank you, Dorian, she said. I appreciate that. He smiled, a rare, genuine expression that softened his features. Just don't let Cassian bully you into anything, or Riven charm you into trouble. You're stronger than they know. As he returned to the training grounds, Alara felt a flicker of hope. Dorian's past had scarred him, but it also drove him. Could she trust him? The warmth in her chest seemed to think so, but the court's dangers, and her own secrets, kept her wary. The Citadel's great hall was abuzz with preparations for a ceremonial hunt, a tradition to honor the moon's waxing phase. Alara stood on a balcony, watching wolves below sharpen spears and ready hounds. She'd been excused from her training to attend, but the weight of the council's test and Dorian's revelations pressed heavily on her. The warmth in her chest was restless, flaring whenever she thought of Riven's knowledge of her magic. As if summoned by her thoughts, Riven appeared beside her, his blonde hair catching the torchlight. He wore a leather jacket, his green eyes glinting with mischief. "Enjoying the view, love?" he asked, leaning against the railing. "Or are you plotting your escape from this gilded cage?" Elara crossed her arms, wary. "I'm here because I have to be, Riven. What do you want?" He chuckled, unfazed by her tone. "Always so serious. I thought you might want to have a little fun. The hunt's a bore, but I've got something better planned." He pulled a small, intricately carved dagger from his belt, twirling it between his fingers. "Join me in the Outlands tonight. I'll show you what real freedom looks like." Elara's eyes narrowed. "The Outlands? Where your rogue pack lives? Why would I trust you?" "Because I know your secret," he said, his voice low, teasing. "That glow in the grove, the power you're hiding, it's lunar magic, isn't it? I've seen it before in old texts. I can help you master it, Elara. No stuffy elders, no court rules. Just you and me." Her heart pounded, the warmth in her chest surging. "You're blackmailing me," she said, her voice cold. "If you know about my magic, you should know better than to threaten me." Riven's grin widened. "Not a threat, love, an offer. The court's choking you, Cassian with his demands, Dorian with his noble promises. I'm offering you a way out. Come with me and you'll see what you're really capable of." Elara's mind raced. Riven's offer was tempting, a chance to explore her magic away from the court scrutiny. But his knowledge of her power was a danger, and his motives were unclear. "And what do you get out of this?" she asked. "The crown, or something else?" He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "Maybe I just want you, Elara. Ever think of that?" Her cheeks flushed, and she stepped back, the warmth in her chest flaring dangerously. "You're playing a game, Riven. I'm not a fool." He laughed, slipping the dagger back into his belt. "Oh, you're no fool. That's why I like you. Think about my offer. I'll be at the hunt's edge tonight, waiting." As he sauntered away, Elara's hands trembled. Riven's charm was a weapon, and his knowledge of her magic made him a threat. She needed to learn to control her power before he, or anyone else, used it against her. That evening, Elara returned to the Lunar Grove, her mind a tangle of Riven's offer, Dorian's sincerity, and Cassian's test. The ceremonial hunt had begun, its distant horns echoing through the forest, but Elder Mara had insisted on another training session. The silver amulet hung heavy around Elara's neck, its surface warm against her skin. Mara stood before the altar, a leather-bound tome open before her. Its pages were yellowed, the text written in an ancient script that seemed to shimmer. "You're distracted," Mara said, her voice sharp. "Your magic will falter if your mind isn't clear. What troubles you?" Elara hesitated, then spoke. "Riven knows about my magic. He saw it in the grove. He says he can help me, but I don't trust him." Mara's eyes darkened. "Riven is a rogue, Elara. His loyalty is to himself. If he knows, others may soon learn. You must master your power now before it's too late." Elara nodded, her heart heavy. "And the vision I saw, the woman, the throne, the words about breaking or binding. What does it mean?" Mara's expression grew grave. She turned to the tome, her fingers tracing the script. "This is the prophecy of the lunar crown. It speaks of a Luna whose choice will shape the kingdom's fate. Listen." She read aloud, her voice low and resonant. "When the moon's heart wakens in a lowly soul, the Luna's choice will break or bind. Her power shall crown a king or shatter a throne, and the kingdom's fate shall rest in her hands." Elara's breath caught. "That's about me?" Mara nodded. "I believe so. The prophecy is ancient, but it aligns with your power, your selection. Your lunar magic is the moon's heart, Elara. If you crown the wrong king, the kingdom could fall." Elara's knees felt weak. "But how do I know who the right king is? Cassian, Dorian, Riven, they all want the crown, and they all want me. I don't even know what I want. Mara placed a hand on her shoulder, her grip firm. You must find your own truth, Alara. The prophecy doesn't choose for you, it only warns. Your magic will guide you, but only if you control it. Alara touched the amulet, the warmth in her chest pulsing in time with her heartbeat. What if I can't? What if my power destroys everything? Then we're all lost, Mara said bluntly. But I believe in you, Alara. Your mother's spark lives in you, stronger than she ever knew. Now let's try again. Channel your magic through the amulet, and hold the vision this time. Alara closed her eyes, her hands trembling as she gripped the amulet. The warmth surged, and the grove seemed to fade, replaced by a vision of a bloodied throne, the woman in white standing over it. Her voice echoed again. The Luna's choice will break or bind. But this time, the woman turned, her face still obscured, and pointed to a shadowy figure, an alpha, his features hidden. Alara gasped, pulling back, the vision fading. I saw her again, she said, her voice shaking. And an alpha, but I couldn't see who. Mara's eyes narrowed. The prophecy is revealing itself slowly. Keep training, Alara. The answers will come. As they continued, the warmth in Alara's chest grew steadier, but the prophecy's weight pressed heavier. Lyria's plot, Riven's knowledge, Cassian's demand, Dorian's promise. Each was a thread in a tightening web. Alara was the Luna, but she was also a target, and the kingdom's fate rested on her uncertain shoulders. The lunar grove was bathed in twilight, its silver flowers glowing faintly under the crescent moon. Alara stood by the stone altar, her hands trembling as she clutched the silver amulet. The prophecy's words, the Luna's choice will break or bind, echoed in her mind, a relentless drumbeat since Elder Mara's revelation. Her training had intensified, but her lunar magic remained erratic, flaring unpredictably whenever her emotions surged. Tonight, it was worse, stirred by the memory of Riven's offer, Dorian's sincerity, and Cassian's demand for loyalty. Mara had left her to practice alone, insisting she learn to channel the magic without guidance. Alara closed her eyes, focusing on the amulet's cool weight. The warmth in her chest stirred, and a faint silver glow shimmered at her fingertips. She breathed deeply, trying to hold the power steady, but her thoughts drifted, to Cassian's intense gaze, Dorian's quiet strength, Riven's roguish grin. Which of them was the shadowy alpha from her vision? The question gnawed at her, unraveling her focus. A rustle in the trees broke her concentration. Her eyes snapped open, the glow fading as she spun toward the sound. Who's there? She called, her voice sharp with nerves. Cassian stepped into the clearing, his dark hair catching the moonlight. His linen shirt was open at the collar, revealing a glimpse of the powerful chest beneath. His amber eyes locked onto hers, a mix of curiosity and something deeper, something that made her pulse quicken. Just me, he said, his voice low. I didn't mean to startle you. Alara's shoulders relaxed, but only slightly. What are you doing here, Cassian? I'm supposed to be training. He stepped closer, his presence filling the grove. I needed to see you, away from the council, away from Lyria's venom. You've been avoiding me since the test. She crossed her arms, the amulet pressing against her chest. I haven't been avoiding you. I've been trying to survive. The court, the prophecy, my magic, it's too much. His brow furrowed and he closed the distance between them, stopping just short of touching her. Your magic? So it's true then. Riven wasn't lying. Alara's heart lurched. Riven told you? Cassian shook his head. Not directly. He's been dropping hints, stirring trouble. But I saw it in your eyes at the council, the way you flinched when Lyria pushed you. You're hiding something, Alara. Tell me. Her throat tightened. Mara had warned her to keep her magic secret, but Cassian's gaze was relentless, peeling back her defenses. I can't, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Not yet. He reached out, his fingers brushing her arm, sending a jolt through her. You don't trust me, he said, his tone more hurt than angry. I've offered you everything. My protection, my name. I want you as my Luna, Elara, not just for the crown, but for you. Her breath caught, the warmth in her chest flaring. You don't know me, Cassian. You see a tool, a way to secure your throne. How is that different from Lyria? His eyes darkened and he stepped closer, his voice low and intense. Lyria wants power. I want a future. I see you, Elara, the Omega who stood up to the council, who didn't break under pressure. You're not just a tool, you're everything. Before she could respond, he leaned in, his lips capturing hers in a sudden, searing kiss. The world tilted, the warmth in her chest exploding into a cascade of silver light that enveloped them both. Elara's hands pressed against his chest, torn between pushing him away and pulling him closer. The kiss was fire and moonlight, a collision of desire and danger. She broke away, gasping, the silver glow fading from her skin. Cassian, we can't, she said, her voice trembling. This isn't right. He stepped back, his chest heaving, his eyes blazing. Why not? You felt it, Elara. That wasn't just a kiss. It was power. You and I, we could be unstoppable. She shook her head, her heart racing. I don't know what I feel. I need time, Cassian, please. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Take your time, but know this, I won't give up on you. He turned and vanished into the trees, leaving Elara alone with her pounding heart and the fading warmth of his kiss. The amulet burned against her skin, and she sank to her knees, guilt and desire warring within her. The prophecy, her magic, the alphas, everything was spiraling out of control. And now, Cassian's kiss had lit a spark she wasn't sure she could extinguish. The Citadel's corridors were eerily quiet as Elara made her way to the council chamber the next morning. The memory of Cassian's kiss lingered, a dangerous distraction that made her lunar magic restless. The warmth in her chest pulsed erratically, and she kept her hands clasped to hide any telltale glow. Elder Mara had summoned her to discuss the hunt's aftermath, but the air felt heavy with unspoken threats, as if Lyria's plot, whispered about by Leela, was closing in. Inside the chamber, Mara stood with Gavrit, their expressions grim. The council was absent, but Lyria sat at the head of the table, her golden hair swept into a severe braid, her ice-blue eyes gleaming with malice. You're late, Omega, Lyria said, her voice dripping with disdain. Or do you think the Luna's title excuses your lack of manners? Elara's jaw tightened, but she kept her tone even. I came as soon as I was summoned, Lady Lyria. What's this about? Mara stepped forward, her silver hair glinting in the torchlight. There's been an accusation, Elara, a serious one. Lyria claims you've been tampering with forbidden magic, endangering the kingdom. Elara's heart sank, her worst fears confirmed. That's a lie, she said, her voice steady despite the panic rising within her. I've done nothing but train as the Luna, as the king commanded. Lyria stood, her smile cold. Nothing? Then explain this. She produced a small blackened amulet, its surface etched with jagged runes that pulsed with an unnatural energy. This was found in your quarters, hidden among your things. It reeks of dark magic, magic that could corrupt the Luna's ritual. Elara's blood ran cold. That's not mine. I've never seen it before. Lyria's laugh was sharp. Of course you'd deny it, but the evidence speaks for itself. The council will see you for what you are, a fraud, unfit to be Luna. Mara's eyes narrowed. Lyria, this is a grave accusation. Where's your proof that Elara placed this amulet? Lyria's smile didn't waver. The servant who cleans her quarters found it. Lila, wasn't it? She'll testify, won't you, girl? Elara's heart stopped. Lila, the Omega who'd warned her about Lyria's plot, stepped from the shadows, her eyes downcast. I found it, Elder Mara, Lila said, her voice trembling. In Ilara's belongings. Ilara stared at Lila, betrayal cutting deep. Lila, you know that's not true. You warned me about Lyria. Why are you doing this? Lila flinched, tears welling in her eyes. I'm sorry, Ilara, I had no choice. They threatened my family. Lyria's smile widened. Enough of this. Gavrich, convene the council. We'll have Ilara tried for treason by nightfall. Gavrich hesitated, his gaze flickering to Ilara. This requires investigation, Lyria. We can't condemn her without proof. You have proof, Lyria snapped, holding up the amulet. Or are you siding with an Omega over the king's betrothed? Mara stepped between them, her voice like steel. Enough. Ilara, leave the citadel until this is resolved. Go to the outer woods. Find Torin. He'll keep you safe. Ilara's mind raced, the warmth in her chest flaring in panic. Leave? But that makes me look guilty. It keeps you alive, Mara said, her eyes fierce. Go now. I'll handle the council. Ilara nodded, her heart pounding as she fled the chamber. The corridors blurred past, her breath ragged. Lyria's trap had closed around her, and Leela's betrayal stung like a blade. She reached the citadel's gates, slipping into the forest as the sun dipped below the horizon. The warmth in her chest pulsed, guiding her toward the outer woods, where Torin's hunting camp lay. But as she ran, a single thought haunted her. Who had Lyria's mysterious ally been, and how much did they know about her magic? The outer woods were a tangle of shadow and moonlight, the air thick with the scent of pine and earth. Ilara stumbled through the undergrowth, her borrowed cloak snagging on branches. The warmth in her chest was her only guide, a faint pulse that seemed to pull her toward Torin's camp. Lyria's trap had forced her to flee, but the sting of Lila's betrayal lingered, mingling with the fear of what the council might do next. After hours of wandering, she spotted a flicker of firelight through the trees. Torin's camp was a small clearing, ringed with tents and guarded by hunters. Torin stood by the fire, sharpening a dagger, his grizzled face softening as he saw her. Ilara, he said, rising. Mara sent word. What in the moon's name happened? Ilara's voice trembled as she recounted Lyria's accusation and Leela's betrayal. They're saying I used dark magic, she said, her hands shaking. They planted an amulet in my quarters. I had to run, Torin. I didn't know where else to go. Torin's jaw tightened. Lyria's playing dirty, but you're safe here for now. Sit, eat. You look half dead. She sank onto a log by the fire, accepting a bowl of stew from a hunter. The warmth in her chest pulsed, a reminder of the magic she couldn't escape. What do I do, Torin? If the council believes Lyria, I'll lose everything. Before Torin could answer, a low whistle cut through the night. The hunters tensed, hands on their weapons, as a figure emerged from the shadows. Riven, his blonde hair glinting, sauntered into the camp, his grin unfazed by the drawn blades. Easy, friends, he said, raising his hands. I'm here for the Luna, not a fight. Ilara stood, her heart racing. Riven, what are you doing here? He winked, stepping closer. Heard you were in trouble, love. Thought I'd offer a better hideout than this muddy camp. My rogues have a place deeper in the woods, no council, no rules. Torin growled, stepping between them. She's not going anywhere with you, Outlander. You're trouble, Riven, and she's got enough of that. Riven's grin didn't falter. Trouble, maybe, but I know the court's games, and Ilara's caught in a nasty one. My pack lives free, Ilara. No casts, no betrayals. Come with me and you'll see what life can be. Ilara's mind raced. Riven's offer echoed his words at the masquerade, tempting her with freedom. But his knowledge of her magic made him dangerous. Why should I trust you? She asked, her voice sharp. You've been playing games since we met. His eyes softened just for a moment. Because I see you, Ilara, not the Luna, not the Omega. You. The court wants to cage you, but I want to set you free. And I know how to keep your secrets safe. Torin's grip tightened on his dagger. Enough, Riven. She stays here. Get out before I make you. Riven chuckled, backing away. Fine, old man. But Alara, when you're ready to run, you know where to find me. He melted into the shadows, leaving a tense silence in his wake. Torin turned to Alara, his expression stern. Don't listen to him. Rogues live by their own code. Freedom, sure, but chaos too. You're safer here until Mara sorts this out. Alara nodded, but Riven's words lingered. The rogue's life, free, unbound, called to the part of her that chafed under the court's rules. But the warmth in her chest pulsed, warning her of the danger in his charm. She was a fugitive now, and the line between ally and enemy was blurring. The hunter's camp was a restless sanctuary, the fire's crackle drowned out by Alara's racing thoughts. She'd barely slept, her dreams haunted by the prophecy's words and the blackened amulet Lyria had used to frame her. The warmth in her chest was a constant companion, flaring whenever she thought of the court's betrayal or Cassian's kiss. Torin had promised to send word to Mara, but as dawn broke, Alara felt trapped, a prey animal waiting for the next strike. A commotion at the camp's edge jolted her from her thoughts. Hunters shouted, drawing their weapons as a figure approached through the mist. Alara's heart leapt, fearing another attack, but the figure was familiar. Dorian, his dark hair damp with dew, his gray eyes scanning the camp until they found her. Alara, he called, striding toward her. His armor was gone, replaced by a simple tunic, but his presence was no less commanding. Thank the moon you're safe. Torin stepped forward, his dagger still drawn. What's an Iron Fang doing here? This camp's no place for alphas. Dorian raised his hands, his voice calm. I'm not here to cause trouble, Torin. Mara sent me. Alara, the council's in an uproar. Lyria's pushing for your trial, but Mara's stalling them. You need to come back. Alara's stomach twisted. Back? Lyria framed me, Dorian. If I go back, they'll arrest me, or worse. Dorian's eyes softened, but his tone was firm. I know, but running makes you look guilty. Mara's working to clear your name, and I'll protect you. I swear it. Torin snorted. Protect her? Like you protected your father when the court turned on him. Dorian's jaw tightened, but he didn't rise to the bait. I was a child then, Torin. I'm not now. Alara, you can't stay here. The council's sending trackers. If they find you, it's over. Alara's heart raced, the warmth in her chest pulsing with uncertainty. I don't know who to trust anymore, she said, her voice breaking. Lyria's got someone powerful helping her. What if it's you? Dorian flinched, as if struck. You think I'd betray you? After I risked my life to save you from those assassins? He stepped closer, his voice low. I told you about my family, Alara. I know what the court's capable of. I won't let them do to you what they did to my father. His sincerity cut through her fear, and the warmth in her chest settled, as if acknowledging his truth. Okay, she said softly. I'll go back. But I need to know Mara has a plan. She does, Dorian said. She's digging into Lyria's allies, trying to expose them. Come with me and we'll face this together. Torin grumbled but stepped aside. If you get her killed, Iron Fang, I'll hunt you myself. Dorian nodded, his gaze never leaving Alara. I won't let that happen. As they left the camp, Dorian kept close, his presence a steady anchor. You're stronger than you know, he said quietly. The court wants to break you, but I've seen what you're capable of. Don't let them win. Alara managed a small smile, grateful for his faith. But as they trekked back to the citadel, the warmth in her chest pulsed, a reminder of the magic, and the prophecy, that could either save her or doom them all. The citadel loomed against the evening sky, its spires casting long shadows as Alara and Dorian approached. The journey back had been tense, with Dorian scanning the woods for trackers. Ilara's heart pounded, the warmth in her chest flaring with every step closer to the court's judgment. Lyria's trap had painted her as a traitor, and returning felt like walking into a wolf's den. At the gates, Mara waited, her silver hair tucked beneath a hood. "You're back," she said, relief flickering in her eyes. "The council's meeting now. Lyria's pushing for your trial, but I've delayed it. We need to clear your name." Ilara clutched the amulet, her voice trembling. "How? Lila betrayed me, and that amulet, whatever it is, makes me look guilty." Mara's expression hardened. "Lila was coerced. I've spoken to her. She's ready to recant, but we need more. The amulet's dark magic is real, but it's not yours. I suspect Lyria's ally is the key." Before Ilara could respond, Cassian appeared, his amber eyes blazing with urgency. "Ilara," he said, striding toward her. "You're alive. When I heard you'd fled, I thought—" He stopped, glancing at Dorian, his jaw tightening. "What's he doing here?" Dorian squared his shoulders. "Protecting her, which is more than you've done." Cassian growled, stepping closer. "Careful, Ironfang. I've been fighting for her in the council while you played hero in the woods." "Enough," Ilara snapped, the warmth in her chest flaring. "I don't need you two fighting over me. Cassian, why are you here?" He turned to her, his expression softening. "To bring you back. Lyria's lies are unraveling, but the council's divided. I made a mistake, Ilara. I've been working with some of Lyria's allies, not her but others in the council. I thought I could control them, keep you safe. I was wrong." Ilara's heart sank, the memory of his kiss mingling with this new betrayal. "You worked with them? Knowing they wanted me gone?" Cassian's eyes pleaded with her. "I didn't know about the amulet. I thought I could outmaneuver them, secure the crown, and protect you. But when I saw that amulet, I knew I'd miscalculated. I'm sorry, Ilara. Let me make this right." Dorian scoffed. "Make it right? You put her in danger, Cassian. She should have stayed in the woods." Cassian's fists clenched, but he kept his gaze on Ilara. "I know I failed you, but I'm here now, and I'll stand with you against Lyria. Swear to me you'll let me help, and I'll expose her allies, starting with the one who planted that amulet." Ilara's mind raced, the warmth in her chest pulsing with uncertainty. Could she trust Cassian after this? His kiss had shaken her, but his admission of working with Lyria's allies cut deep. "I don't know if I can trust you," she said, her voice steady despite her turmoil. "But I need allies. Prove yourself, Cassian. Help Mara clear my name." He nodded, relief flickering in his eyes. "I will. I swear it on the moon." Mara stepped forward, her voice sharp. "We don't have time for promises. The council meets at dawn. Ilara rests tonight. Tomorrow, we face Lyria together." As Ilara followed Mara into the citadel, Cassian and Dorian trailing behind, the warmth in her chest pulsed, a reminder of the prophecy's weight. Lyria's trap had nearly destroyed her, but Cassian's confession, and Dorian's loyalty, gave her a fragile hope. The court's game was far from over, and Ilara was running out of time to master her magic and choose her path. The lunar grove was a cathedral of moonlight, its ancient trees weaving a canopy that seemed to pulse with the moon's energy. Ilara stood before the stone altar, her silver amulet glowing faintly against her chest. The air was thick with anticipation, the scent of earth and blooming silver flowers grounding her as she prepared for the lunar ritual, a sacred rite to unlock her magic, guided by Elder Mara. The warmth in her chest thrummed, both a comfort and a warning, as she grappled with the weight of the prophecy and Lyria's recent trap. Mara stood across from her, her silver hair shimmering in the moonlight, a ceremonial staff in hand. "This ritual will bind you to your magic," she said, her voice resonant. "But it's dangerous, Ilara. If you lose control, the power could consume you." Ilara's hands trembled, the memory of Cassian's kiss and his confession warring with Dorian's loyalty and Riven's tempting offer. I'm ready, she said, though her voice wavered. I have to be. The council's watching, and Lyria's lies are closing in. Mara nodded, her eyes piercing. Then begin. Place your hands on the altar and call the moon's power. Let it flow through you, but hold your will firm. Alara obeyed, her palms pressing against the cool stone. The warmth in her chest surged, and a silver glow enveloped her hands, spreading to the altar's runes. The grove seemed to hum, the trees swaying as if in reverence. Her vision blurred, and a voice, ancient, feminine, whispered, "The Luna's choice will break or bind." The same words, but now accompanied by a vision. A woman in white, her face obscured, standing over a shattered throne, blood pooling at her feet. Alara gasped, her knees buckling. "I see her again," she said, her voice shaking. "The woman from the prophecy, she's warning me." Mara's grip tightened on her staff. "What did you see?" "A throne, broken. Blood everywhere." She said the same words, "Break or bind." Alara's heart raced, the glow fading as she pulled her hands back. It felt real, like it's happened before. Mara's expression darkened. "It has. Long ago, a Luna betrayed her king, her magic twisting the ritual. The kingdom nearly fell. The prophecy warns of that cycle repeating. You must master your power, Alara, or you'll follow her path." Alara's throat tightened. "How? The magic, it's too strong. I can barely control it." "You must anchor it to your will," Mara said. "Your emotions feed it. Fear, anger, desire. Clear your mind. Try again." Before Alara could respond, a figure emerged from the trees. Torin, his grizzled face etched with urgency. "Mara, Alara?" he said, his voice low. "The council's moving against you. Lyria's convinced them to hold a ceremonial duel to test the Alpha's worth. They want Alara there to prove her loyalty." Mara's eyes narrowed. "A duel? They're escalating. This is Lyria's doing. She's trying to force Alara's hand." Alara's heart sank. "Force my hand? How?" Torin's jaw tightened. "By pitting Cassian and Dorian against each other. They think if you favor one, it'll prove your allegiance, and weaken the other. Riven's involved too, though he's playing his own game." Alara clutched the amulet, the warmth in her chest flaring. "I won't let them use me like this, but I can't refuse, can I?" "No," Mara said bluntly. "Refusing would give Lyria more ammunition. Go to the duel, but guard your magic. If it flares in public, Lyria will use it to prove her lies." Alara nodded, her mind racing. The ritual had awakened something in her, but it also deepened her fear. The prophecy's shadow loomed larger, and the duel would only tighten the noose around her neck. The Citadel's arena was a roaring cauldron of noise, packed with wolves from every pack, their cheers echoing off the stone walls. Alara stood on a raised platform, her sapphire gown replaced by a simple tunic to blend in, though the silver amulet hung heavy around her neck. The warmth in her chest pulsed erratically, stirred by the crowd's energy and the looming duel. Cassian and Dorian faced each other in the arena below, their swords gleaming under the torchlight, while Riven watched from the sidelines, his roguish grin masking his intentions. Elder Mara stood beside Alara, her voice low. "This duel is a test, not just for the Alphas, but for you. Lyria's watching. Don't let your magic show." Alara nodded, her hands clasped to hide any glow. "I'll try. But Cassian and Dorian, they're fighting for me, aren't they? What if someone gets hurt?" Mara's eyes were grim. "They know the risks. Focus on yourself, Alara. The court wants you to choose a side. Don't give them what they want." The horn blared and the duel began. Cassian moved with lethal precision, his sword a blur as he pressed Dorian back. Dorian countered with steady, controlled strikes, his gray eyes focused, his movements betraying no anger. The crowd roared, but Alara's heart pounded, the warmth in her chest flaring with every clash of steel. From the high seats, Lyria's voice rang out, sharp and taunting. Look at them, Omega. Fighting for your favor. Who will you choose, I wonder? The heir, or the reformer? Ilara's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond, her eyes fixed on the arena. Cassian's strikes grew fiercer, his amber eyes flashing with determination. Yield, Dorian, he shouted, his voice carrying over the crowd. The crown is mine, and so is she. Dorian parried, his voice calm but firm. The crown's not yours yet, Cassian. And Ilara's not a prize to be claimed. She'll choose for herself. The crowd cheered, but Ilara felt a surge of panic. The warmth in her chest burned hotter, and a faint silver glow flickered at her fingertips. She tucked her hands into her cloak, praying no one noticed. The duel was spiraling out of control, and her magic was responding to her fear. Riven sauntered to the platform, his green eyes glinting. Quite a show, isn't it, love? He said, leaning close. They're tearing each other apart for you. Makes a rogue like me look tame, doesn't it? Ilara glared at him. This isn't a game, Riven. They could kill each other. He shrugged, his grin wicked. Let them. Thins the competition. But if you want to stop this, you know my offer stands. Run with me and this nonsense ends. Before she could respond, a cry rang out from the arena. Cassian's sword had grazed Dorian's arm, drawing blood. The crowd gasped, and Ilara's magic surged, a silver glow bursting from her hands before she could stop it. The light flared across the arena, halting the duel as every eye turned to her. Lyria stood, her voice triumphant. There! The Omega's cursed magic! She's a danger to us all! Mara grabbed Ilara's arm, whispering urgently. Control it now! Ilara clenched her fists, the glow fading, but the damage was done. Cassian and Dorian lowered their swords, their eyes locked on her, a mix of shock and concern. Riven's grin widened as if he'd expected this. Mara stepped forward, her voice booming. Enough, the duel is over. The Luna's power is sacred, not cursed. Lyria, your accusations are baseless. The crowd murmured, uncertain, but Lyria's smile didn't falter. We'll see, Elder. The council will decide her fate. As the arena cleared, Ilara's heart pounded, the warmth in her chest a chaotic pulse. Her magic had betrayed her, and Lyria's trap was tightening. She needed to act, and fast, before the court turned her power against her. The Citadel's library was a labyrinth of ancient tomes and flickering candles, a refuge from the chaos of the duel. Ilara had slipped away, needing space to process her magic's public flare and Lyria's accusations. The warmth in her chest was restless, a storm of power she couldn't contain. Mara had promised to address the council, but Ilara knew time was running out. She needed answers, about her magic, the prophecy, and the alphas vying for her heart. As she pored over a dusty tome on lunar rituals, a shadow fell across the table. Riven stood there, his blonde hair tousled, his green eyes gleaming with mischief. Hiding in books, love? He said, pulling out a chair. Thought you'd be out celebrating your little light show. Ilara slammed the book shut, her voice sharp. You knew this would happen, didn't you? You goaded me at the duel, and now Lyria's got proof to use against me. Riven leaned back, unfazed. Proof? Nah, just a spark. But it did liven things up. The court's buzzing, and Cassian and Dorian are at each other's throats. My kind of chaos. Her heart sank, the warmth in her chest flaring with anger. Chaos? Is that all you care about? I thought you wanted to help me, Riven. But you're just playing games. His grin faded, and for a moment, his eyes were serious. Not just games, Ilara. I want the crown, sure, but not for the reasons you think. The monarchy's a cage, rules, castes, betrayal. I want to tear it down, build something free. And I need your magic to do it. Ilara's breath caught. Tear it down? You mean destroy the kingdom? Not destroy, he said, leaning forward. Liberate. The Pax deserve better than this corrupt court. You've seen it. Lyria's schemes, Cassian's ambition, Dorian's ghosts. Join me, and we'll remake it all. Your magic's the key. She stared at him, the warmth in her chest pulsing with uncertainty. You knew about my magic from the start, didn't you? That's why you've been pushing me, tempting me. You don't care about me, you want my power. Riven's eyes darkened, but he didn't deny it. I care, Elara, more than you know. But yeah, your magic's part of it. I've read the old texts. Lunar magic can reshape the world. With you by my side, we could end the council, the castes, all of it. Elara stood, her voice trembling with anger. And what about the prophecy? It says my choice could shatter the kingdom. You're asking me to risk everything. He rose, stepping closer, his voice low. Risk? You're already at risk, love. Lyria's got the council eating out of her hand, and Cassian and Dorian are too busy fighting each other to see the real threat. I'm offering you a way out. She shook her head, backing away. No, Riven, you're offering chaos. I won't be your weapon. His grin returned, but it was colder now. Suit yourself, but when the council comes for you, don't say I didn't warn you. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. Lyria's not working alone. Her ally's closer than you think. Watch your back. As he vanished into the library's shadows, Elara's heart pounded, the warmth in her chest a chaotic swirl. Riven's betrayal cut deep, confirming her fears. He'd known about her magic all along, and his plan to dismantle the monarchy was a dangerous gamble. Worse, his warning about Lyria's ally echoed Leela's words. Who was it? Cassian? Dorian? Or someone else entirely? The Citadel's lower halls were a maze of stone and shadow, rarely tread by anyone but servants. Elara had slipped away from the library, driven by Riven's warning and a desperate need to uncover Lyria's ally. The warmth in her chest pulsed erratically, her magic reacting to her fear and anger. She'd overheard a servant mention a secret meeting in the old archives, and her instincts told her it was connected to Lyria's schemes. She moved silently, her cloak blending into the shadows. The archives were a dusty warren of shelves and forgotten relics, the air thick with the scent of moldering parchment. As she neared the far end, voices echoed, low and urgent. She crouched behind a shelf, her heart pounding as she recognized Lyria's sharp tone. We're running out of time, Lyria said, her voice laced with frustration. The Omega's magic is stronger than we thought. That display at the duel has the council spooked. Another voice, male and deep, responded. You pushed too hard, Lyria. The amulet was supposed to discredit her quietly, not spark a spectacle. Now Mara's digging, and Cassian's wavering. Elara's breath caught. The man's voice was familiar, but she couldn't place it. Not Cassian, not Dorian, not Riven. Someone else. Someone powerful. Lyria scoffed. Cassian's too proud to admit he's losing control. And Dorian's too noble to see the truth. We need to act before the coronation. The Shadow Council won't wait forever. The man's voice lowered, almost a growl. The Shadow Council wants results, Lyria. If Elara's magic is tied to the prophecy, we can't let her crown anyone. She needs to be eliminated. Elara's heart stopped, the warmth in her chest flaring so fiercely she nearly gasped. She clamped a hand over her mouth, the silver glow flickering at her fingertips. The Shadow Council? Who were they? And how did they know about the prophecy? Lyria's voice was cold. Then we move to the next phase. The duel bought us time, but we need something bigger. A ritual, perhaps, to expose her as a threat. Can you arrange it? The man chuckled, a chilling sound. Already in motion, the council's meeting tomorrow. We'll present evidence of her curse and demand her banishment. If she resists, we'll have no choice but to act. Elara's mind raced. She needed to warn Mara, but moving now risked discovery. She stayed frozen, listening as the voices faded, their footsteps echoing down the hall. When she was sure they were gone, she slipped out, her heart pounding. The warmth in her chest was a storm now, her magic threatening to spill over. She found Mara in the lunar grove, recounting everything in a rush. Mara's eyes darkened, her staff tapping the ground. "The Shadow Council," she said, her voice grim. "An old rumor. A group of wolves who pull the court's strings from the shadows. I thought they were a myth." Alara clutched the amulet, her voice trembling. "They know about my magic, Mara. They think it's tied to the prophecy. They want me dead." Mara's grip tightened on her staff. "Then we fight back. Tomorrow's council meeting is your chance to expose Lyria. But you must control your magic, Alara. If it flares again, they'll use it against you." Alara nodded, fear and determination warring within her. The Shadow Council was real, and Lyria was their pawn, or their leader. Either way, Alara was running out of time to unravel their plans and master her power. The council chamber was a crucible of tension, the air thick with the scent of wax and polished wood. Alara stood at its center, her hands clasped to hide the faint glow threatening to spill from her fingertips. The warmth in her chest was a wildfire, fed by the Shadow Council's threat and Riven's betrayal. Mara stood beside her, her presence a steady anchor, while Cassian, Dorian, and Riven sat among the council, their expressions a mix of concern, suspicion, and calculation. Lyria presided, her golden hair gleaming, her smile a blade. Gavric rose, his voice formal. "Alara, the council has reviewed the accusations against you. The amulet, your display at the duel. These suggest a dangerous power. Defend yourself." Alara took a deep breath, her voice steady despite her fear. "The amulet was planted, as Lila admitted. My power is the Luna's magic, granted by the king's decree. I'm no threat. I'm here to serve the kingdom." Lyria laughed, sharp and mocking. "Serve? Your magic nearly disrupted the duel. It's unstable, dangerous. The council should banish you before you destroy us all." Mara stepped forward, her voice like steel. "Enough, Lyria. The Luna's magic is sacred, as the prophecy foretells. Your accusations are a distraction from your own schemes." The council murmured, but Lyria's smile didn't falter. "Schemes? I protect the kingdom, Elder. Unlike this Omega who hides behind your skirts." Cassian stood, his amber eyes blazing. "Lyria, you've gone too far. I've seen your allies work, the amulet, the whispers. Alara's not the enemy here." Dorian nodded, his voice calm but firm. "Cassian's right. I've fought for Alara's safety, and I've seen her strength. She's the Luna, chosen by the king. We should honor that." Riven leaned back, his grin sly. "Oh, I agree. Alara's special. But let's not pretend we're all saints here. The court's a mess, and someone's pulling strings. Maybe it's time we looked closer at Lyria's friends." Lyria's eyes flashed, but she recovered quickly. "Enough stalling. Council, vote now. Banish the Omega or risk her curse." Alara's heart pounded, the warmth in her chest surging. She felt the magic rising, threatening to spill over, but she held it back, her eyes darting to the alphas. Cassian's intensity, Dorian's loyalty, Riven's cunning, each pulled at her heart, each a path in the prophecy's shadow. "Wait," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "I'm not a curse. I'm the Luna, and I'll prove it. Give me time to master my power, to show you who I am." The council hesitated, their eyes flickering between her and Lyria. Gavric spoke, his voice cautious. "A fair request. We'll delay the vote. Alara, you have 1 week to prove your control, or face banishment." As the council adjourned, Alara's knees trembled, the warmth in her chest a chaotic pulse. Cassian approached, his voice low. "You bought time, Alara. Let me help you use it." Dorian joined them, his gaze steady. "We'll face this together, Alara. You're not alone." Riven lingered, his grin softer now. "Nice move, love, but choose carefully. The court's not done with you yet." Alara met their eyes, her heart torn. The prophecy loomed, her magic unstable, and the Shadow Council's threat was closer than ever. She had to choose, not just for the kingdom, but for herself. But as the warmth in her chest pulsed, she knew her heart was as dangerous as her power. The lunar grove was shrouded in darkness, the moon obscured by a rare eclipse that cast an eerie pall over the citadel's grounds. Elara stood by the stone altar, her silver amulet glowing faintly despite the absence of moonlight. The warmth in her chest was a restless storm, stirred by the Council's ultimatum and the Shadow Council's looming threat. Elder Mara had insisted on a final training session before the week's end, when Elara would face the Council again to prove her control over her lunar magic. But tonight, the grove felt wrong. Too quiet, too still. "Focus, Elara," Mara said, her voice taut as she adjusted a circle of moonstones around the altar. "The eclipse weakens your magic, but it also tests your will. Channel the power through the amulet, even without the moon's light." Elara's hands trembled as she touched the amulet, the warmth in her chest flickering like a dying flame. "It's harder tonight," she said, her voice strained. "It's like the magic slipping away." Mara's eyes narrowed. "That's the eclipse's pull. Fight it. Your will is stronger than the darkness." Elara closed her eyes, reaching for the magic within. The warmth stirred, faint but persistent, and a dim silver glow flickered at her fingertips. But before she could hold it, a low growl echoed through the grove, followed by the snap of twigs. Her eyes snapped open, the glow fading as she spun toward the sound. Mara's staff hit the ground, her voice sharp. "Show yourself." 3 figures emerged from the shadows, cloaked in black, their eyes glowing with an unnatural amber hue. Wolves, but not like any Elara had seen. Their movements were too precise, their presence radiating a dark energy that made her skin crawl. "The Luna!" one hissed, his voice a guttural snarl. "Enter." Mara raised her staff, a silver light flaring from its tip. "Stay back, Elara," she shouted, stepping between her and the attackers. But the wolves were fast, lunging with claws extended. Elara's heart pounded, the warmth in her chest flaring despite the eclipse. She raised her hands, instinctively calling on her magic, but the glow was weak, flickering like a candle in a storm. One wolf swiped at Mara, knocking her staff aside, and Elara screamed, "No!" A blur of motion cut through the darkness. Dorian, his sword drawn, his gray eyes blazing with fury. He tackled the nearest wolf, his blade sinking into its side. The other 2 turned on him, but he moved with lethal grace, parrying their attacks. "Elara, run!" he shouted, his voice strained as he fought. She froze, torn between fear and defiance. The warmth in her chest surged, and a burst of silver light erupted from her hands, weak but enough to stagger one of the wolves. It howled, clutching its face, and Dorian seized the moment, dispatching it with a swift strike. The 3rd wolf lunged at Elara, but Mara recovered, slamming her staff into its chest with a blast of silver energy. The wolf collapsed, and the grove fell silent, save for the ragged breathing of its defenders. Dorian sheathed his sword, blood dripping from a gash on his arm. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice rough as he approached Elara. She shook her head, her hands trembling. "No, but... Mara, are you all right?" Mara leaned on her staff, her face pale. "I'm fine, child. But those weren't ordinary wolves. They were enhanced, dark magic, likely from the Shadow Council." Elara's heart sank. "They knew about the eclipse. They knew my magic would be weak." Dorian's jaw tightened. "This was planned. Someone told them where you'd be." He glanced at Mara, then back at Elara. "We need to get you out of here. The Citadel's not safe." Mara nodded, her voice grim. "Take her to the inner chambers. I'll alert the Council. This attack proves the Shadow Council's real, and they're targeting you, Elara." As Dorian led her away, Elara's mind raced. The warmth in her chest pulsed, a reminder of her vulnerability and her power. Someone had betrayed her, and the list of suspects was shrinking. Cassian? Riven? Or someone closer still? The Citadel's inner chambers were a fortress of stone and iron, their walls lined with ancient tapestries depicting lunar battles. Ilara sat by a roaring fire, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea that Dorian had insisted she drink. The warmth in her chest was unsteady, still reeling from the Shadow Council's attack. Dorian stood by the door, his arm bandaged, his gray eyes scanning the corridor for threats. "You should rest," he said, his voice soft but firm. "You've been through too much tonight."